Are we going to start?
Yes, we'll start.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. A very good morning, evening, afternoon, depending upon where you are. And thank you so much for joining today's webinar. A few things before we can start the webinar is that this session is going to be for approximately 45 minutes. After we are done with the webinar, we'll have 15 minutes for a Q&A section. If you guys can see, you will find a Q&A box where you can post your queries, and at the end of the session we will be addressing those queries and we'll try our best to answer all of them. And after we are done with the Q&A session, we'll just quickly run a poll, and that's the agenda for today's webinar. So now I think Mr. Ashwin will take over.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you, Alva, and welcome everybody. And I hope everybody can see my screen, right? I will quickly start with the presentation. My introduction will be in the presentation itself. So I think we can start right away. And welcome once again, everybody, for taking the time out to join this session. And I hope this would be an knowledge getting session and a knowledge sharing session rather to everybody, right? And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody may have. So please feel free to um, uh, put your questions. So the topic of our session today is the cloud CSA STAR Level 2 compliance using the ISO IEC 27001 and the CCM version 4 controls as the control framework. So this is what we are going to cover today. Quick introduction about us, the context, the ISO 27000 and the 27001 background family, and the CCM controls for CSA Star Level 2 compliance, and of course the certification, how it actually goes out. So quick introduction of our company is in this video which I'll play. So that was about our company. This is about me. Um, so we are you've seen this short video. We are a Denver, Colorado-based CPA firm focusing on data security and privacy mainly, only rather. We are not into financial services or any other services. The full-time business is SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 reports, and of course the we are as a certification body we focus on the data security and privacy related ISO IEC certifications 27000, 27001, and all the other IT and cybersecurity related controls. That's what we focus on. I'm the CEO. I've been in this industry for about 19 years, having worked in Citigroup, having worked in PwC, and other companies. So this last 5 years, this firm is being run by me, and I'm a CPA and MBA with some of the cybersecurity certifications such as CISA, CISM, CSSP, CRISC, CGIT, CDPSC, which is a privacy certification from ISACA, CCSK, which is the cloud security alliances certification, and of course the ISO 27001 lead auditor, ITIL, and PMP. So I have been built. I built all these qualifications in my journey of 19 years. It was across the whole period, not just one day. And the as I told you, we focus on cloud security and privacy as a major focus area. And my experience goes in internal audit, external audit, network security, industrial cybersecurity, IoT, and smart infrastructure, of course, and to some certain extent, blockchain cybersecurity. So some of the clients that we have worked with are, and even still work with is EY, Reliance Jio, which is the largest telecom player in India, Cisco's WebEx platform, Control Map, Altria, Hotel Key were SaaS companies. They are still SaaS companies. They were startups, and today they employ thousands of people, and they have grown up in the last 5 years since we have been auditing them. So the context here is that the cybersecurity and data breaches are increasing every day. Cloud services market size is increasing. It's going to be about $1 trillion by 2024, as estimated by IDC. And 93% of the enterprises already have multi-cloud strategy. The SaaS segment in terms of cloud is increasing every year. We see several uh, SaaS companies with billions of dollars of funding coming up in the last several years. They have come up and still coming up, and that's a major growth area in the IT today. Cloud and SaaS, and also by growing in the cloud, the cyber risks are also growing. And in terms of compliance, we need to have a third party data security compliance for even cloud environments, which are IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Although IaaS players are limited, the companies which hold the IaaS servers are although limited, but the PaaS and SaaS segment is the highest growing, as we said. And since they are third party data, and if you want to sell your SaaS services to companies or to larger companies, they will ask you uh, certifications or compliances such as SOC 2 and ISO 27001 and CSA STAR Level 1 2 compliances, of course. So the CSA Star is what we're going to talk today. Before that, we will look at the ISO 27001. But the most common third-party compliance tool is the 27001 certificate since the last more than 10 years. And of course, the number two is the SOC 2 for privacy, for SOC 2 for data security, and the various five criteria companies choose to report on. The CSA CCM controls, and in Germany they use a C5 controls also is also common for companies to adapt as part of their ISO or the SOC 2 controls. PCI, of course, is only for cardholder data. So coming to our major area, which is the ISO 27001. We will look at the background as to what this family is having, consisting, and what are the certification standards across this. So the most common certification in the 27001 family is the 27001, which was the after 2005, it was revised in 2013, and it is still the certifying standard is a 2013. Although we have heard about the updates in the standard in 2022 to be announced, but we don't have an exact timeline. But we do hope that the standard will be revised in 2022, first in the 27002, which is the guideline, and later on the certifying standard, which is the 27001. Of course, cloud companies also use the 2017 as the extension to 27001. And for privacy, also we have for cloud security, for cloud privacy, we have the 2017, 27018, and for general privacy standard is the 27701, which was announced in 2019. So that 27701 standard is in 2019 announced. So the background again, as it was said, it was originally BS 7799 standard, which was then moved to 27001 2005 standard, which was announced, and then the latest version at a certifiable standard is we have is 27001, which is the 2013 standard. So we all know that this is by far the most accepted third-party audit certificate. and it's been there for almost more than 15 years now, since 2005, right? And even before that, BS 7799. So it's most widely accepted, most common data security standard, and this is what has been widely accepted. If you've seen the other um, slides before this, um, it is the de facto certification standard, and that is the reason Cloud Security Alliance also has used this as a first requirement to go to the CSA Star Level 2. So you should be definitely having the 27001, 2013, and of course the Cloud Security CCM controls as part of your statement of applicability, right? So the quick glance on the information security management system as part of the 27001. It calls for building an ISMS. It calls for building a management systems best practices to be implemented with the use of people, process, and technology. And the certification gives you a worldwide recognition that your ISMS is the best practices that you use. The latest version, of course, is the 2013 version. And I think that's it in the slide. The major features is you have the CIA addressed, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. You have a risk assessment, which is covered and your vulnerabilities, threats, and are also looked at from a risk assessment perspective. And the risk management, of course, we have the major aspects of avoiding, reducing, and accepting the risks as part of the risk management per se. But I'm sure people who have companies who have implemented, they have their own risk management framework. Either they've used ISO 31000 or they are using their any other standards per se, right? The next slide also talks about the PDCA principle, which is planning, doing, checking, and the act of continual improvement, right? So it's important that we do this PDCA cycle or the Deming cycle to of course plan our cybersecurity approach to implement the doing part is to implementing the controls, to checking is the monitoring aspects, and to of course the act is to continuously do the improvement cycle. So taking this logic, it's important for us to understand the also the risk management and the risk perspective, how we do in ISO 27001. So from a cloud security perspective and also from a SOC 2 perspective, right? The SOC 2 uses the COSO risk framework, which is aligned to the SOC 2 trust services criteria, whereas companies in 27001, those who are testing, follow the ISO or any other internal approach. But it's equally important to reassess risk assessment and risk management, because what we see from our experiences that companies really need to do a thorough review or thorough introspection of their risk management processes, because that is the main key area. If the cloud risks perspective, if you're when we're talking of cloud security, we need to make sure that all the cloud risks, right, are covered as part of your risk assessment, monitoring, and management. And that is the most important piece when we look at cybersecurity or cloud security and privacy also, right? So it's important that we understand how to do a proper risk management and make sure that the entire risks at every level are covered. Let's take the example of access control. Like access control is required at the physical layer when you enter the office in terms of access cards, ID cards, and then in terms of your logging into your workstations or the laptops that you use, and then to the specific applications that you have access to, like maybe Office 365 or your any other application, SAP, or any other application that maybe you will be using. And then of course the database is equally important. You need access control at the database layer. You need access controls at the administrative layer of the network devices. You need access control at the database layer, network layer, and then the application layer and presentation layer, and so on. So just taking a risk, you need to look at access controls across all the layers that you are going to be getting impacted for those specific things. So access control, not just as a control objective as one, but you need to take access control for physical security, access control for application security, access control for NAS and SAN storages, access control for databases, access control for every detailed thing needs to become covered as part of your risk assessment. Not only assessment, then how are we going to do the monitoring piece of those risks in terms of access control for all of these areas, right? So that's important for you to plan specifically. You're in a cloud environment. How does it impact you? If you're a cloud service provider, maybe you are an IaaS provider or a PaaS provider or a SaaS provider. So the access controls for you would be meaning to basically how are you looking at what services are you giving it. If you're a SaaS provider, it will be differently applied. If you're an IaaS provider, it will be differently applied, and so on. So every entity or every environment needs to reassess or assess as to what their risks are based on their business profile, their business services that they provide to customers, and of course their internal environment. So coming back to ISO 27001 as the main structure, we know the clauses 1 to 3 are the ISO defaults. The clause 4 starts right as to the context of the organization, then the leadership and the planning and support and operations, performance evaluations, improvements, and then the annex A controls, which are from the A5 to A18. So all of these need to be covered as part of your risk assessment, as part of your ISMS, and as part of your governance process itself, right? So, so, so I believe companies who have implemented this would be aware of how to take this forward, right? If companies who are don't have in-house team can, of course, hire consulting companies to help you to implement the entire controls across the requirements of ISO 27001. Right? We being an audit firm can only do a limited review and do the audit per se. So implementation is out of our scope. Being an audit firm, we need to have the concept of maker checker, and the implementation support is not provided by our company, and you will need to look at a third party. Of course, if you need our help, we can suggest you something, but by default we do not do the implementation services. Being an audit firm, we focus purely on the audit services per se. So the context of the organization, of course, the interested parties, the scope of the audit itself for ISO 27001 is covered. The entire information security management system as to how it would work and would be covered as part of the system. The leadership and commitments, information security policies, at least the high level policies, your vision and mission will come into play here. What are the organization's roles and responsibilities, who heads and does what will come here. So an organization chart also depicts who does what in certain way. So those that can be used to depict your specific roles and responsibilities in your company. Then coming to planning, we need to look at the actions, your general planning, your risk assessment, your risk treatment, and the objectives. We discussed this risk assessment just a few slides back. So resources would also you need to look at what are your internal resources, external resources that would help you to either implement or govern your entire SMS. Of course, we also need to hire competent people, either full time or contractual, either way. Security awareness is part of the requirement, and of course, communication is one of the important tool, even in ISO 27001 as well as SOC 2. Then let us also not forget that creating and updating the policies and procedures is important, and of course, doing the day-to-day operations is equally important as part of the ISO 27001. Evaluating performance, monitoring measurement as part of your risk assessment and as part of your governance is equally important. Doing internal audits, managing internal audits as to where you are weak or where does your uh, compliance stands today is equally important. And of course, improvement is a continual improvement. We just saw that in the PDCA cycle that we need to make sure that we assess, we monitor, and we continually improve ourselves. So some of the Annex A controls is the policies for information security, organization of information security, people security, asset management, access control, cryptography, physical and environmental security, operation security, communication security, system acquisition and maintenance, supplier relationships, information security, incident management, business continuity, and of course compliance. So coming to CCM controls and preparing for the CCM itself. So the first step is that we definitely need an ISO 27001, and of course we will also need to have a statement of applicability and add all the CCM controls as part of uh, the statement of applicability, which is the first step for an entity, right? So the first step to any project management is to get management support, management buy-in in terms of budgets, in terms of scoping, in terms of the entire project itself, right? So it's a project management, and it would involve the entire uh, company to a certain extent because HR is definitely involved, the business processes are involved, the IT is involved, which supports all of these IT related controls. Of course, we need IT administrators to implement and these policies, right? So how it goes is you define an ISMS scope, and the ISMS scope will also include the CCM controls. Then you have an inventory of assets, you have internal audits, you have access to risks as part of the risk register, right? You update your information ISMS based on your risks. You have your compliance reviews, you have your pre-certification reviews, you have your corrective actions, you have developing ISMS, you have preparing risk treatment plans, statement of applicability, of course. You have your project teams, you have a project plans, and once you are certified, this is the step what it shows is compliance reviews, then certification review, certification audit, then ISO STAR certified as part of the level 2 compliance, and then you add it to the registry, and this is how you operate as a overall picture. So we will go in some of the details in the few next slides, but this gives you an overall picture of the entire process as to how you need to start your project and end through certification and to level 2 compliance. Of course, once you've submitted to the registry, and then your year-to-year surveillance audit comes up on a year-to-year basis. So the again, it's 27001. The CCM controls, the capability maturity model leads to the STAR certification. STAR certification is the term used when you use the ISO 27001 to get to this level. The other route is to use the SOC 2. Instead of 27001, you can also use the SOC 2 route plus CCM controls plus capability maturity will lead to STAR attestation. So level 2 can be used uh, um, I think let me go to this slide first. Yeah. So level 1 is your self-assessment. You use the cake to talk about your maturity, and you submit the cake to the registry. You get to the level 1. Level 2, there are two paths, right? The attestation level and the certification level. So certification, as we said, is achieved by ISO route, and the attestation is reached via the the SOC 2 route, right? We offer both. So our next webinar in December would be on the use of SOC 2 to reach the level 2. So the new version of the cloud control matrix is the version 4. It has 17 security domains and it has 197 controls. It's reorganized in this fashion: audit and assurance, application and interface security, business continuity, change control, configuration management, cryptography, data center security and privacy, governance, HR, identity and access management, interoperability and portability, infrastructure, and so on. So these are the domains, 17 domains, 197 controls. This is how it's been reorganized, right? So audit and assurance has got six controls, and the controls have been, you know, uh, assigned as part of the domains here itself for your quick reference. So how do you implement your cloud control metrics? So as part of the ISO, you will need to look at your applicability first as to what are the CCM controls that are applicable for your environment, depending on whether you are in IAS, PAS, or SAS CSP, right? And then you will create your SOA. You will do your risk management based on the applicability of controls to your environment. You will implement all of those controls, right? And then you will make sure that the controls are operating effectively, and then constantly improve the controls in your environment. This is how what it means actually. The steps that you would carry out is to have a project team to implement the controls, to communicate what are your project needs and what are your controls, your IT requirements, your actual resource requirements, your budgets, etc. And then you will create an implementation plan as to how are you going to implement the controls, the policies, the entire project person, right? And then you will of course review your project plan across your entire project life cycle. And you, of course, the implementation piece, you will use people, process, and technology to implement the actual controls. You will make changes because some of those controls may not work in the way it is desired. You will highlight some changes, some modifications into your requirements, carry out impact assessments, and then once it's implemented, you will start measuring a return on investment as to what have you achieved, right? The return of investment in any security project is always a long term. There is no immediate return on investment because today companies are looking at your security best practices to give you business. If you don't have a SOC 2, if you don't have an ISO 27001 or CCM and STAR registry, right? People don't give you business. So the return on investment is measured in terms of the total number of new customers that you have acquired, right? Rather than in terms of cost saving or in terms of any other requirement. So security always works like this, specifically when it comes to compliance and comes to providing an assurance to your customers as to the the kind of the kind of controls that you have implemented in your environment, right? So it's a long term ROI. It's a long term posture that you want to provide to your customers, that you have definitely implemented those controls and you are CSA star level 2 certified, etc., etc. Right? So of course it gives more recognition to you. It gives more assurance to your customers why we need to get to a CSA star level 2, right? So that's what you need to portray to your customers, that you are following the industry best practices, which has been built by Cloud Security Alliance, and of course which is built on the ISO 27001 framework. And you are giving an assurance to your customers that, hey, we are doing our best. We are looking at all the controls. We are doing our risk management right. We are following the frameworks, and we are being audited by a Cloud Security Alliance and panel audit firm, which are only about 10, 15 as of now today. So you can choose any auditors which meets your needs, and of course you can go to that level 1, of course, as starting point, level 2 as part of the 27001 or SOC 2, and level 3 is a continuous monitoring and CSA is working towards forming some metrics of measurement as of now. So it is still in process, and that will come out in some due course of time. So again, the CSA star, right? The level two is the level you achieve based on your 27001 and the CCM controls getting to your star level 2% based on the Cloud Security Alliance CCM 4 standard. So about CSA and CSA Star, CSA was founded in 2009. It has got 115,000 individual members, 400 corporate members. One of them is us as SCGL, and we are one of those 400 members. If you don't be a member, we can't be an audit firm. I'm paneled by CSA. There are 30 working groups, 107 chapters globally, and of course, we have seen the headquarters, which is in Seattle. They have a UK headquarters, and they have a EMA headquarters also. So the STAR stands for Security, Trust, Assurance, and Risk, provided by the STAR program owned by Cloud Security Alliance. And of course, you have the CCM standard, which CCM 4 is the latest one. You have the certification framework, and you have the registry, which is an open registry. Uh, any company can go to the STAR registry and check out which companies have reached the level one, level two, and based on the SOC 2 attestation or the ISO 27001 certification. So we already covered this star level one, level two, level three, and let me skip this for now. And let me also look at the open certification framework, which is level two. The CSS star, as we discussed, is an auditing procedure based on the SOC 2 Trust Services Principles, TSP 100, based currently on the Trust Services Criteria 2017, which is the latest SOC 2 standard. And you have five criteria in that: security, availability, uh, processing integrity, privacy. But for the purposes of ISO, only if you have a security criteria, that should be good enough based on your requirement. So security criteria plus the CCM criteria will lead you to the level two. For the CSA STAR certification, all you need is to your statement of applicability based on your business processes and your scope. And of course, you need to add the CCM 4 version 4 controls as part of the SOA and implement those controls, do a risk management and the entire end-to-end process, which we just discussed in the above slides. The CSA C star is for the Chinese requirements, and the GDPR is for mostly the privacy, which we will skip because it's not part of our scope today, but this is provided by CSA, and that is why it is in this slide. So why do we actually need a CSA star to your security system? So if you have a cloud service provider, as we said, it makes a lot of difference to pose yourself into the companies, few companies. There are about 1,500 companies today who already have CSA star level one or two, both combined. So you will be one of those 1,500 companies which can create an impact and provide some kind of assurance to your customers. Hey, we are already at star level one, but 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 the companies who are star level two will definitely have an edge over the star level one companies also, because star level one is just a self certification. If you have a star level two, it gives it it gives you in another league of companies who are a few hundred worldwide today, and you can portray yourself as to one of the best companies who really care about data and data security of their customers, right? So today, cybersecurity is important. If you do not provide a right posture about your cybersecurity environment to your clients, right? The client companies may rethink twice about coming to you, and you want to gain customers. That is the objective of being in the business. This is one of the best things to have, to portray your compliance, to portray your data security and privacy assurance to your customers to get into the business, right? So of course, the major factors, of course, is to reduce the risk, be consistent within the organization, to follow established practices as part of your ISMS, and avoid conflicting objectives, improve internal and external communications, avoid duplication and gain, cost savings, of course, return on investment is best provided if you already have a long-term vision in your company. You can identify and resolve conflicting responsibilities and relationships, gain a structured balance and authority of accountability, focus organization into business goals, absorb informal systems into formal systems, harmonize and optimize practices, optimize staff training and development. Of course, these are taken from CSA's slides, and some of this content is directly coming from CA and CSA, and that is what I'm repeating out to you, right? So that's what CSA wants to portray to their customers. So the certification steps are simple. Um, so first step is you definitely need to do level one. You'll use a cake, and with the CCM4 controls, updated cake is already provided on CSS website, and you will look at all the controls, do a self-assessment. Step two is the submitting the cake to the star registry. Once you do that, you will get to the level one. Then step three is you need to hire an auditor, and once you've prepared for, of course, the ISO, ISMS controls, you have done your SOA, you have implemented the controls, hire an audit firm like us who can provide you the audit stage one, stage two, covering your ISO 27001 controls as well as the CCM controls, right? And then, of course, promote your certification, submit it to the star level two. So the auditor, we as an audit firm, needs to submit to the CSA. Of course, there's a fees that CSA will charge you to put you onto that level, and you can connect to CSA to check the exact fees which will be applicable to your environment. And of course, yeah, then step five is to submit your submissions along with your requirements to CSA, and then of course you need to put that on your website, organization confirmation mails, and promote that as a business driver for your organization. So these are the steps required to complete your certification. And of course, at the end of the session, you will get a certificate like this from CSA, and I think the scope um the scope will include, of course, this CSA as well as your um, ISMS as part of the certification. So that's a disclaimer, and whatever we have said is for um general discussion in nature. It was not addressed to any specific business needs or any specific environments, and whatever we have said should be taken generally applicable and not specifically be applicable to your company. In case you need a specific advice to how would your company be able to reach this level, I would suggest we can have a one-to-one session, and this recording should not be taken as a specific advice to your company, right? So that's all I had for you to discuss. And if you have any questions, we can take them now. And if you have not posted any questions, we can take them post them now, and we will take them in the sequence as we have received them. Questions? Don't see any questions posted. So if anybody has any questions now, we can do. Otherwise, we'll do a quick poll, and we can we can uh, we can save time, or let I'll give you back your time if there are no more questions. So in the meantime, people post their questions. Can we do a quick poll?
Sure. So I'll just start the poll. The first poll question has already been posted. Kindly share your feedback. I think we have one Q&A question. In the meanwhile, you can also address that.
Okay, so can we finish the polls first, right, Eva? All the three polls.
Yeah,
I
I
think let's
think
do that.
I think people have voted. Some have not.
Can we quickly finish with the polls, please, so we can go to the questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the question and answers. So the first question is difference between the cake and CCM. Okay, good. So the cake is a questionnaire based on the CCM itself, right? So you need to answer yes and no. Yeah, it's a self-assessment questionnaire based on the CCM version controls, CCM4 controls. So CCM is a framework, cake is a questionnaire. So once you answer the questionnaire, you submit whether you have implemented those controls, whether they're applicable to you or not, and whether you implemented them or not. So that is the cake, and that is a submission that you need to do to the Cloud Security Alliance website. That that is where once you submit that, you will attain a level 1 certification. I hope I've answered that question, right? Any other questions for today? So, yeah, so thank you, everybody. I think if there are no more questions, I think we can close the session. I thank everybody to have taken their time for this session. I do appreciate, do thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, even in the future, you can come back to us. You can always email us. You can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you out. And if you are a cloud service provider, we'll be happy to, of course, do your ISO 27001 and the CSA STAR Level 2 compliance requirements. Thank you once again, and uh, and have a great day. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.